Now we are on to the main card of UFC 259.
I was all ready to go to sleep. I was so tired.
Yeah, but we woke up.
Such a long day.
We woke up because this is the most anticipated card of the year.
I'm like, I'm having an espresso. Let's do this.
And it's freaking Aleksandar Rakic versus Thiago Santos. Walk into the cage, and I texted my brother. I'm like, yo, the octagon is terrifying right now, dude.
I was literally saying, this fight isn't going to go past the first round. Just like the early prelims. We're going to get this card started.
Most boring fight on the main card.
Yeah.
Snooze fest.
Unfortunately, I didn't find it to be as awful as like the commentators were saying, because you can't fault them for playing it a little safe, knowing the knockout power that was standing across from them. And the fact that they respected each other's power in that way is, I mean, kind of smart. So I'm not mad at either of them.
I'm not mad at them. It's just I watched Thiago Santos fight John Jones in a fight that I thought Santos might have won. And I watched Rakic KO his last opponent with a head kick from hell. So I'm expecting at least some jeopardy, some fireworks, and nothing. It was like Rakic was holding him against the cage, Santos is throwing. It sucked.
Now, Joe Rogan made a really good point, and he made it several times throughout the fight. And at first he was saying it, and I was kind of not on board, but then I thought about it, and I was really watching Santos fight, and I feel like Joe Rogan felt like his movement was impeded from the knee injuries he suffered from the John Jones fight. And he had some severe injuries to both knees. Mm-hmm. One more severe than the other, but still, he was out of commission for a while. And Joe Rogan was kind of noticing that he's not the same fighter since he had those injuries.
And there might be a point to what Rogan was saying.
Yeah.
Santos didn't look that great in his last fight either. Sometimes they put you back together, but it doesn't quite stick. Now, we did just see Dominic Cruz fight, who had tons of knee surgeries and shoulder, arm, leg, everything, but not everybody recovers fully. Hopefully that's not what happened to Santos, but it might be.
Santos is still pretty young. I really want to see him fight John Jones again. I want to see that Santos that we saw in that title fight, those awesome knockouts that he has done in the past. We'll know in his next fight, wherever it may be. Maybe it won't be in the UFC. Hey, if he goes to Bellator, woo! That light heavyweight division is just ridiculous right now, and then add him to it, that'd be nuts. If we see him fight again, this will be really telling. Like, 3 times the charm. Hopefully he'll be able to get back into the movement that he used to have, but only time will tell. For Rakic, a win for him, although he kind of a boring win, whatever, he's still going to move up the rankings. Santos was ranked really high, so good for Rakic.
And that takes us on to the second fight on the main card. This was kind of highly anticipated.
Yeah.
You've got Islam Khabib 2.0 Makhachev versus Drew. Looks like he should be wearing pastel polo button-downs Dober. Those are their new nicknames. I gave them to them just now. This fight went exactly how every Makhachev fan said it was going to go. I've been seeing people hype up Makhachev for the past year that he's been out, talking about how he's going to come in and crush the division and fill the void Khabib is left by leaving.
Yeah.
And it looked like he's trying to do that.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a great cornerman in Khabib, and he has great talent.
His grappling was...
What beautiful grappling.
Those takedowns, trip takedowns, and once he had Dober down, there was no way Dober was getting back up.
No, he's way more submission grappling oriented. I didn't really see any sort of high volume ground and pound or anything like that. He was more going for like positions and submissions, which is cool to see. I love seeing nice flowy jiu-jitsu that's heavy and life-threatening, so good on that.
Yeah, and the choke that he finished Dober with, a lot of people were saying he tapped him with shoulder pressure.
That's what I thought at first, and I was like, what? But you could see, like, there was some serious neck.
Yeah, there was weird stuff popping out of Dober's neck. He was working his jaw, but I think Makhachev had Dober's arm over a little.
Yeah,
it was a head and arm, but like from the wrong side. Which,
or half guard or something.
But that just shows you how strong the guy is. That's an insane squeeze.
And also just the expertise, that knowledge of where to apply the pressure to get the choke. You see specialists like that who make it somewhat high up in the UFC. Aleksei Oleinik is a choke specialist who has made it to the top 10 in the heavyweight division. And you don't usually see them go much further than that, but Makhachev has everything else and that. Just that expertise of knowing how to apply a choke, even if you're not in the best position, that is something that I look at in awe. So, what an awesome gift he has.
They're talking about top 5 fights for him next.
Well, slow your roll, guy.
Because Drew Dober wasn't ranked.
Yeah, that was weird to me. But
and Sean Brady just fought an unranked opponent, but they're talking about maybe he'll get in the top 15.
That would make more sense.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean, Makhachev could probably beat a lot of the people
in the top 10, maybe. 10. I don't know, top 5, but
it's a little early to tell.
It's too early to find out.
He's had a long layoff. Like, give this man a little warm up before you throw him to the top 5 of the lightweight division, which are all killers. They just gave him
Drew Dober, which is sad for Drew Dober, but what are you gonna do?
Dober's a tough guy, man. You could just see how tough he was. He lasted to the 3rd round with that guy. A lot of people wouldn't have made it that far. So
no, and I enjoyed watching him beat the shit out of Alex Hernandez. His last fight out, was it Alex or Anthony Hernandez? I can't remember the guy's name, but he kind of looks like Dober. Also looks annoying, but Dober beat the shit out of him, so I liked it.
Yeah. He usually puts on good fights, so he'll definitely fight again.
Yo, it's time to get to the first of the 3 title fights on this card.
Oh my gosh. This was so
weird.
Upsetting. What a great fight up until that final ending sequence of the fight.
And the fight we're talking about is Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling versus Petr Yan, who Henry Cejudo dubbed a communist potato, which I thought was really funny. It was good up until that finishing sequence.
Yeah, and it went to towards the end of the 4th round is when the ending sequence happened, which we'll get to. But up until then, the fight was pretty much going in the direction of Petr Yan winning.
Yes.
Aljamain Sterling put on a great first round, and then he started to fade a little bit in the 2nd round. He had this insane pace that he set in the very beginning, which was great to see him outwork and outmove Yan. And we're huge fans of his. He's a fellow teammate along the line of the Henzo family, so we always want to see our guys win, right? But it was very close. But towards the end of the 2nd round, he started to fade.
I think that's where
Petr Yan turned it up.
I think what happened with Sterling, he did feel the pressure of the moment. And I think things that, even if he was working at the high pace that he was a little bit frantic about it. And Jan's a scary dude. So, there's a lot of jeopardy there. And I think he gassed himself a little mentally. Now, Jan started coming on the end of the 2nd. Through the 3rd, he started coming on strong. What I was impressed by was at one point Sterling was tired. You could tell. But he just said, fuck it, I'm going to have to eat some shots to get to this guy. And he put himself in stand-up danger to land strikes to find a takedown, which is something in the past I think Sterling has been reticent to do. His striking style, when I first started watching him in his first fight in the UFC, he was very much kick-oriented. And I always felt like it was because he was protecting the head. He didn't want to get touched to the face, didn't want to get punched, touched up, which is good, right? I just thought he was a little too kick-heavy. In this fight, he said, fuck it, I gotta go. And he engaged, and he kind of left that reticence behind him to try to win a world title, which is commendable.
Yeah, and he really showed his true heart in there. He really put everything into every one of his kicks, every one of his takedown attempts. You see so much energy just going out there. It was a lot. You just see the passion in his eyes. He wanted that. He got into, even though he was physically and mentally exhausted, he put himself into that like 3rd, 4th, 6th gear that they talk about, and he was running on like hope and a prayer and you know, all those lovely things until he got caught in a very compromising position.
In an artificial position. Yeah, in an artificial position that really should not exist in the fight game. So what happened was Sterling went in for a takedown. Yan stuffs a takedown, pushes down on the head, and now Sterling is turtled on hands and knees in front of Petr Yan defensively. In the real world, in a real fight, you get on your hands and knees in front of somebody, and they're going to kick your fucking head off, and the fight's over, and you're going to the hospital. But because of the grounded fighter rules, and probably like basic humanitarian reasons, fighters in the UFC are not allowed to throw kicks to the head of a downed opponent.
Okay, now this is where it gets a little murky. There are rules that were set in place, I don't know how many years ago, where they changed it, and they said, okay, the new grounded opponent rules are, instead of the old rules where it's 4 points on the ground.
It was like, no, the old rules were like one point on the ground. Yeah,
is it 1 point?
2 points.
We'll leave it here.
It's fucking confusing because there are multiple rule sets defining what is and what isn't a grounded fighter.
Yeah, it's already confusing in of itself of like knowing when this point's on the ground, that point's on the ground. Now there's 2 sets of rules, and that happened a few years ago, and they still haven't deciphered one way or the other.
And some states use the old rules, and some states use the new rules. And the best we could hope for is that Petr Yan was confused when he kneed Sterling's head into the fucking 8th row of the fanless arena.
Down.
While Sterling was clearly a downed opponent, passed on to Yan by the ref and by at least one member of his corner.
Yeah, so, okay. We got a little explaining to do. Alright, I'm going to start with trying to figure out what Yan was thinking when this happened. And I've been to live fights where someone accidentally kicked a grounded opponent. And from what I understand, from what I've seen from the live perspective, it's called tunnel vision. You get this tunnel vision where you're just focused on one thing. You're focused on the grounded opponent rule. You're focused on their hands not being on the mat. You don't see hands on the mat. You're not even looking at what their knees, their feet, what are they standing, are they sitting? You're not looking at that. You just go for the kick, the knee, whatever. The illegal move. They don't see that it's illegal. Bottom line. And that's what happened to the fighter in the fight that I saw live. Just got caught up in the moment, didn't quite see what was the full picture of everything, went for the move, immediately regretted it, knowing that it was an illegal move. Of course. We're in the UFC. We're dealing with a champion, right? More than likely, a champion in the UFC is not going to want to do something like that intentionally, right? From what I saw is he asks his corner. He hears from the ref at first the hands were down, he's grounded. And then the hands come up. He's just looking at that. He hits the knee. I think that's kind of what happened. Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of how he explained it. So I'm not really like mad that he did. Like I'm mad that he did it because it totally like ruined a great fight. Because I know the intentions were not to do an illegal move, but just a shit situation all around.
Yeah. To make it worse, you've got Rogan in DC talking about an anecdote, talking about like, yo, Khabib said that his corner said he could kick. So then I'm looking for the audio file. What I heard was, I think his chief corner saying, punch only, punch only. And then you hear Yan asking something in Russian. And another member of his corner is like, Davai, da! But he was just, it sounded like he was just encouraging Yan to try to win the fight. And Yan was like, good, knee his fucking head off. And he throws the knee. Done. Fight should have been done immediately as soon as Sterling's head snapped back and he fell to the canvas.
Yeah.
But what we got was a protracted amount of time where the ref, again, Mark Smith, having a rough night, was asking Sterling like, hey, can you continue? Are you okay? And Sterling just got kneed in the fucking head. And he's like, I don't know if I'm okay. I'm dizzy. But Smith calls in the doctor and he's telling the doctor, he's like, if he can't get up, we're going to call it a DQ finish. He's going to win the belt. Go over there and talk to him, Doc.
Yeah, that's the problem with these empty arena matches, because you can hear everything. Now, normally in a full-packed arena with screaming and yelling and all of these things, you wouldn't be able to hear that conversation. So maybe that was a mistake, but it was a mistake that hindsight could have seen, but maybe Mark Smith should have taken the guy outside of the octagon or far away from the person who he was talking about. But, you know, that's neither here nor there.
Either way, the thought is that Sterling heard him and then decided to say he couldn't continue. Guess what? the decision should never be on Sterling anyway. It should be on the dock of the ref to look at him and be like, this guy can't fight. He's probably concussed from an illegal blow. So now you got some people saying Sterling was faking it, or maybe he was concussed. Maybe he didn't hear any of it. He couldn't get up. We don't know. It's immaterial. Sterling goes home with the belt, and they're going to rematch immediately or as soon as Sterling's medical suspension is up.
Yeah, and that really had me going like, what? How does he get a belt when he gets a belt because he got kneed in the face illegally? Like, this is one of the weirdest title ending sequences that we've ever seen, let alone in the UFC. So this is crazy.
The hugest mistake by a champ in a fight that we've seen. He gave up his title on an illegal knee. But how do you work that? If you
give the title to Aljamain, like, it's crazy. He didn't want it.
But Joy was saying, like, oh, they could strip him of the title and then they could fight for the title. But he walked into the cage with the title, right? So you can't, after the fact, strip him because it's already a title fight. But then Joy was saying no contest, which I'm thinking, yeah, why not no contest?
That's what would make the most sense to me. There's no way the fight can continue without that really affecting it.
Could you take a point? I don't know the rules of officiating
but if
to
you
that
think
degree,
but then like, let's say it goes to the judges' scorecards. They revealed the judges' scores, and they had 2 judges going in even, which a point taken away would then have it be a majority draw, right, if it went to a decision. But one of the judges had it in favor of Aljamain, 2-1.
So
3-1.
Yeah, which
math.
Cool, but that's not what the fight looked like to me. Yeah. Regardless, guess what?
Bad judging.
Sterling takes the belt. He goes home, he trains, he preps for Petr Yan again, and they do a rematch. Problem solved. Terrible ending to a title fight.
Yeah, it was just awful the way the sequence happened. At first, they're asking him if he can continue, all of these things. He knows what's going to happen. And not saying that he did anything intentionally, but when something like that is known in your head, of course, knowing that if you can continue, you're most likely going to go out on your shield.
You're compromised now.
Why would anyone... I'm just going to nip this in the butt right now, because there's a lot of talk going on the internet by these keyboard courage motherfuckers saying, oh, he's acting, he's doing this, he's playing it. Oh man, why didn't he just get up? I've seen Ben Askren get up after getting knocked out. First of all, you motherfuckers weren't there. You didn't get knocked out. You didn't get kneed in the face while you were downed. So you have no idea what it feels like. Okay. 1. 2, you wouldn't have gotten up either, okay? So just put it to bed, get it over with, get it out the system. He didn't want the belt. He got it anyway.
I'll tell you who would have taken the belt.
What are you going to do?
I'll tell you who would have taken the belt immediately without a second thought. Chael Sonnen would have grabbed that belt and run with it, which is what he would have done in the John Jones fight when Jones broke his toe, but he murked Sonnen before the end of the round. Chael Sonnen would have taken that belt and ridden off into the sunset with it.
Yeah, there you go. There's someone who would definitely make a gimmick out of it. As for Aljo, this is like a blessing and a curse, right? This is a bad situation. It's a bad look that he gets a belt in this fashion. But you know what's great for him is he made a couple of like mistakes, right, in the fight that was losing him the fight up until that point. Because in my opinion, right, I thought he was going to lose the fight at the end, whether it went to a decision or he got knocked out. It would have went that way, right? So now Aljo has the opportunity to correct those mistakes that he made in this first fight in the rematch and win the title legitimately. So he's basically been given a second chance in kind of the worst way possible, but let's see what happens in the rematch.
We're back. And we're on to the co-main event, a bout between Amanda the Lioness Nunes and Megan Anderson. And Anderson came in as, like, Nunes was like a minus 1,000 favorite, and I know people who put money on her, and they lost all that money because she got murked like a minute and a half into the first round. I think the moment got to her.
Yeah, I don't think she was ready. Plain and simple. She wasn't ready.
I mean, they showed a clip of her walking into the arena, and she looked terrified. She looked like panic attack mode. Maybe it was the moment got to her. I know she can perform better than she did, but at the end of the day, everybody who goes against Amanda Nunes, the same thing happens, whether it takes 1 round, 2, whether it's a decision, a sub, or a KO. Nunes murks him.
Yeah, it's just a matter of just, and nothing, I don't want to take anything away from Megan Anderson. I think she's a really good fighter. She's just not there yet to fight someone like Amanda Nunes. I just feel like Amanda Nunes is on another level. Not only does she have the striking that is so scary, knockout power, knocking out people like Holly Holm and Chris Cyborg, that is scary in of itself, but you got to see her jiu-jitsu, and what a smart way to win a fight, knowing that Megan Anderson, her assets are her reach and her striking. Take her down, do a cool triangle, arm lock. Fuck yeah, I love that. That was one of my favorite submissions. Amanda Nunes just got to show another look. Got to just have some fun. Got to be a mom out there. So good for her. Very happy to see that.
That's exactly what she did. Have some fun. Back triangle armbar finish. Cash a check. Go home and wait to see who she's going to fight next.
Yeah.
And all of this has led us to the main event of the evening. The chance for Israel Adesanya to become a champ. The chance for Jan Blachowicz to send Israel Adesanya back to the middleweight division. And the fight did not disappoint. That was a great fight.
It was such a great fight. And like we said in our video before this card, where we were talking about the fact that this fight is going down at the Apex, which is a 25-foot octagon versus the proper size of pay-per-view octagons, which we've always seen in the past being 30 feet. This octagon is reduced in size by 40%. When you have less space, you have less movements to make to evade attacks and to pick people apart on the outside and to counter strike, which is what Adesanya's game is all about and what he is the best at. So why did they give him such a hard challenge in Jan Blachowicz and then a smaller octagon? When he clearly is their darling.
I think it's a matter of that they don't think Adesanya's stock will be reduced too much by a loss to Yan, which is what happened, by the way. Blachowicz took it unanimously, easily, I thought. And I also think it was a gamble on their part. Maybe Izzy would have knocked Yan out, and then he'd be this cult figure. He'd be in that family of double champs, and they could push him even more. Regardless, that's not what happened. Yeah. Jan Blachowicz didn't use the Polish power to get the finish. He used the Polish power to take Izzy down in rounds 4 and 5 and handily control him, sealing the deal on a fight that we thought he was winning from the get-go. But the commentary team was watching an entirely different fight or smoking crack.
I have never in my life, Joe Rogan, DC, John Anik, 3 of my favorite commentators in the UFC together for one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year. I never ever in my wildest dreams thought I would hear so much propaganda coming from those 3. Now, I love hearing their opinions because their insight is just unmatched to a lot of the other commentators in the UFC. I mean, there's tons that I love. Like I love Dominic Cruz and Paul Felder, and we could go on and on. But they all have this insight, and you love hearing their point of view and their spin on things. But this was a little too much because they were so high on Adesanya to the point where they're like, oh yeah, he's winning. Oh yeah, he could have won this fight. And we're just like, what the hell? Like, Jan, in my opinion, won 4 rounds.
Jan won rounds 1, 2, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
In the brief time that all 3 of the commentators did not have Israel Adesanya's dick in their mouth when they were able to speak, they were just talking about how Jan was biting on all these feints, and Izzy had him perplexed, and Izzy was moving so well and such great shots. And then you look at the stats. Can we put the stats up?
Yeah.
Stats are going up right here. Because look at the stats. Did you look at them? Look at the stats. Jan outstruck Izzy every round. Every single round he outstruck Izzy.
Even in the 3rd round, which everyone, even us, like, okay, we'll give it to Izzy, whatever. But like he even outstruck him in the round that we all think Izzy won. Like what?
What were they watching? If you don't know, if you just heard this fight happening from the other room, you think Israel Adesanya won that fight until they read the scorecards.
Or watch the fight.
Insane.
Yeah, and during the empty arena era of UFC pay-per-views and fight nights and cards, when there's no one in the arena, you can hear those commentators. You can hear the ref. You can hear someone fart. You can hear everything. So those commentators, I don't know how far away the judges are, but I'm like, man, I really hope the judges don't hear this because the scoring was a little like wonky somewhat throughout the fight. So I was like, oh no, what if they give this to Izzy?
However far the judges were, it was not far enough. They got it right. But, I've heard some biased commentary from Rogan and DC before. Usually Anik is more down the middle, but this was the worst I've ever heard.
Yes.
Anyway, we're both happy that Yan won because we picked him to win because he's a bona fide light heavyweight.
And this was the best case scenario for both of them. Yan got to beat one of the greatest, like, he's going to be known, like, I don't mean to put air quotes on it because he hasn't been quite proven to be, like, the greatest of all time. But he's on that path to be a legend, Izzy. I mean, come on. He's got some swagger about his fight style, and it is so, like, mesmerizing to watch. So, okay, fine, maybe the commentators were mesmerized, but whatever. Listen, Yan got to beat Izzy, that guy who everyone is talking about. Yan, not that many people talk about. He got 10 minutes in the post-fight press conference. Izzy got 25 and he lost. But I'm all for the Polish power. I live in Greenpoint. I love me some Polish power.
They were handing out kielbasa on the street today, just free. Just you could go out and they just gave you a sausage, and they were like legendary Polish power.
Speaking of
real life.
Kielbasa and sausage and diets and all of these things, one thing that I feel like Izzy did to kind of like soften the blow of the loss was he kind of just set himself up to where if he did lose, it wouldn't look so bad because he gets on the scale for the weigh-ins before the fight with a thing of pizza. He's weighing in at 190 whatever.
No, it was 200 about. He said he was going to weigh in 193, but he didn't. Yeah.
So I feel like he kind of softened the blow, like if he did lose before the fight, leading up to the fight. It didn't look like he had a nutrition plan because it looked like he was in the same shape he's in for his 185 fights when he got into the octagon. So me thinking that, like, when you go up in weight, like, if you think about, like, GSP, how GSP treated it when he went up to 185 to fight Michael Bisping, he filled out. He changed the way he ate. He, like, had to change a lot about his physicality, and his muscle composition changed, and all of these things that he filled out to be a middleweight that I didn't see Adesanya do. I mean, I didn't watch him in his fight camp, but physically, I didn't really see any of that type of specific, like, scientific process in his fight camp.
It did seem like he weighed in lighter than most middleweights would rehydrate to for a light heavyweight match.
Yeah, now did he do that to prove a point? Like if he lost, like, look, I'm not that big? Or is that just what, how he wanted to handle the fight camp? But I feel like maybe he could have taken it a little serious, a little more serious.
Muscles don't win fights, but they don't hurt either when you're fighting a light heavyweight who's way bigger than you. I thought he could have put on a little more weight too.
Yeah, but he handled himself very well in defeat. And based on what I've seen amongst the peanut gallery and the interwebs, people who weren't fans of Izzy were won over in his defeat. He really handled himself very well as a champion should. So good
I
on
like
that.
him better now than I did before he lost. So
yeah, he made a joke, like he pretended like he was really drunk the night before, like throwing shade at Costa, which was funny. Like in the post-fight interview right after the fight.
Costa asked if Izzy was drunk on Twitter.
Yeah.
I thought that was good too. Maybe they can do a rematch if Costa wins a couple more fights.
Yeah, who knows? What's next for these guys?
Yan is going back to Poland to spend time with his family, and then he will return to display the legendary Polish power against Glover Teixeira.
I think he'll win.
Yeah, I think Yan will win too. But if Glover Teixeira is willing to wait, who knows? Izzy's going to go back down to 85, where he never should have left, I think. And he's not going to talk about moving to heavyweight to fight John Jones anymore.
Yeah, but maybe down the road.
Why? I mean, he might, but why? Just stay at middleweight, dude.
He looks great at middleweight. I think if he did a more like GSP style, like weight gain, weight not cut.
Weight gain of 6,000 or whatever.
Yeah, whatever GSP did. Like if he did something like that, like really packed on pounds, like got to that 205 in a way that was maybe a little more physically imposing for Jan, maybe to answer to his grappling a little more. Maybe we'll see that in the future. Who knows?
All right. It is that time of the video where we put the best comment of our previous video up. So comment, shout out, going right. It's going right here.
Thank you for your comment.
Leave more comments, guys.
Yeah.
If you like the video, give a like. If you like the channel, subscribe.
There's a lot to talk about here. Tell us what you think about these fights. There was so much going on about the questionable ref calls, the crazy knockouts, the decisions that were happening, the judges scoring. Let us know what you think.
Nonsense illegal knee.
The biased commentating.
The incredibly biased commentating. Just
yeah.
Hit us up in the comments, and we'll see you guys in about a week. All right. Fight Fuel MMA signing out. Peace.